The room was quiet enough to hear a man breathe. Deep in the Reich Chancellery, where marble walls swallowed every echo, the senior commanders stood as if waiting for a verdict no one wanted to hear spoken aloud. A runner had arrived minutes earlier, pale and breathless, carrying a short, typed message from the Foreign Office. The note was placed directly into the hands of General Wilhelm Keitel, who read it once, twice, then slowly lowered the page. His face drained of color as he looked toward Hitler. "It's confirmed," Keitel muttered, barely loud enough for the others to hear. "The British Prime Minister has rejected the offer. Completely." A silence fell so thick it seemed to choke the air. Outside, the distant thuds of artillery practice echoed like a bitter reminder of what lay ahead if peace truly died that night. Hitler snapped his head up, eyes sharp, irritated that the room wasn't reacting fast enough. "Rejected?" he demanded. "Rejected fully? No conditions?" "No negotiation." Keitel swallowed and nodded. "Yes, my Führer. Churchill refuses any arrangement short of total German withdrawal." A fist slammed onto the polished table. The war maps vibrated under the blow. "He is a fool," Hitler hissed. "A stubborn bulldog who doesn't know when a war is already lost for him." Then his voice shifted tone, becoming harder, brittle. "He will regret this." Around the table, the generals exchanged glances. Some anxious, some resigned. They knew Churchill wasn't the one who would regret anything. They knew precisely who would. General Jodl spoke first, reluctantly. "My Führer, if they have refused once again, it means London believes Germany still has options left. They think we are buying time." Hitler turned toward him sharply. "We are not buying time," he snapped. "We are giving them the chance to avoid their own destruction." Another silence. The generals knew this line. They'd heard versions of it before, delivered with confidence early in the conflict, and spoken now with the desperate energy of a gambler who keeps insisting the next roll will hit the jackpot. General Heinz Guderian stepped forward, usually blunt, now cautious. "My Führer, Churchill's refusal means they expect the conflict to continue, possibly to intensify. They believe the United States will support them more openly. They think they can wait us out." Hitler's eyes darkened. "They underestimate us." But the generals knew the truth. British intelligence, American production power, and the rapidly closing net of the conflict had changed everything. Churchill refused the peace proposal because he saw the writing on the wall. Germany was not in a position of strength anymore, and he knew it. General von Brauchitsch finally voiced what the others were thinking. "My Führer, if Churchill refuses even secret overtures, it means he believes we won't be capable of forcing peace later. They see our limits." Hitler stared at him, long, cold, unreadable. Then he leaned back, arms crossed, as if folding all his anger inward. "No," he said quietly. "Churchill miscalculates. He will break before we do." The generals said nothing. Every map in the room suggested the opposite. A junior officer entered briefly to deliver updated intelligence reports, fresh bomb damage assessments from Hamburg, fuel shortages worsening near the front, and further evidence that the Allies were tightening their grip. He didn't even need to read the expressions around him to understand what sort of meeting he had interrupted. Fear clung to every face except one. Hitler dismissed him with a wave and returned to the table. "If the British will not accept peace," he declared, "then we continue, and we escalate. They will learn fear." But the High Command knew that London had made its choice not out of fearlessness, but out of clear-eyed calculation. Germany's proposal had not been an act of strength. It was a warning flag, a sign of the pressure building inside the war machine. Keitel looked down at the map again, his voice low as he murmured to Jodl. "They have decided they can outlast us." Jodl whispered back, "And they may be right." Hitler stiffened at the faint whisper but said nothing. He knew what they meant. He just refused to accept it. The meeting dragged on for another hour, filled with tense pacing, clipped arguments, and the sound of maps being unrolled and re-rolled with nervous hands. No one dared challenge Hitler directly, but every man in the room felt the shift, the moment the illusion of control cracked. Outside, The darkness pressed against the bunker windows like an omen. Inside, the German High Command said what they could, quietly, carefully, as if afraid their own words might collapse the fragile structure of confidence still holding the leadership together. But beneath every sentence lay the same truth. Britain had called their bluff, and there was no turning back. The report from London sat in the center of the table like a silent accusation. Its cold refusal shaped the room's mood more powerfully than any speech could. The generals circled the table again, their boots echoing on the floor as German staffers tried to look busy, carrying stacks of documents no one believed would change anything. Guderian leaned over the map, tracing British supply routes with a gloved finger. "They're confident," he said. "Too confident. Churchill must have guarantees. American involvement. Expanded aircraft production. Something that gives him the courage to say no." Keitel nodded slowly. "He believes Germany will weaken." Hitler stopped his pacing. "We are not weakening," he snarled. "We still have divisions that have not been deployed. We still have reserve capacity." Jodl hesitated before speaking. "My Führer, most reserves are paper divisions now. They exist only on staff lists. We do not have the fuel to move half of them." A muscle twitched along Hitler's jaw. Brauchitsch cleared his throat. "Churchill's refusal means we must brace for prolonged fighting. And we cannot rely on political fractures in Britain. They hold. Stronger than expected." Hitler cut him off. "That old man only survives because of propaganda." The room fell quiet again. Everyone understood what had happened. The diplomatic backchannel had been seen for what it truly was, a last attempt to slow the tide. And the British had sensed weakness. One of the intelligence officers stepped forward with a fresh report. "London broadcasts are celebrating," he said. "They believe Germany is beginning to buckle." "Let them believe," Hitler said, but his voice lacked conviction. After the officer left, the generals exchanged uneasy glances. They could tell Hitler was unsettled. His usual booming voice had softened. His gestures were sharper but less controlled. His eyes avoided the latest casualty reports placed on the table. Guderian finally spoke the hardest truth. "My Führer, Churchill rejects peace because he sees victory in reach. If the Royal Air Force continues to grow and American aid expands." "Enough," Hitler snapped. "The Americans will not intervene directly. Roosevelt has his own problems." But even Keitel couldn't hide the doubt in his eyes. American factories were already dwarfing German output. London knew it. Washington knew it. And now, quietly, the High Command knew it too. A telephone rang from the corner, shrill and jarring. A communications officer answered, listened, then approached nervously. "My Führer, another city reports damage. The bombing tonight was heavier than expected." Hitler waved him away without responding. The generals knew the meaning of Churchill's rejection. It wasn't defiance. It was confidence built on industrial arithmetic. Berlin could feel the pressure from every direction. Keitel whispered to Jodl after Hitler turned away, "We offered peace because we needed time." Jodl nodded. "But they know we are the ones running out of it." At that moment, Hitler stepped back toward the table. "We adjust our strategy," he declared. "We will force their hand, break their morale, crush their will." But the generals had studied the numbers. They knew morale wasn't Britain's problem. It was Germany's. Night deepened outside, air raid sirens distant in the background. In the bunker, the senior commanders tried carefully to shape their sentences, knowing the wrong phrase could trigger an explosion from Hitler. They spoke of supplies, production, strategic choke points, morale, risk, opportunities, anything that might sound like a plan instead of a warning. But every sentence betrayed the truth under its surface. The enemy had refused peace because they smelled victory. And the German High Command, for all their whispers and cautious phrasing, knew the coming months would test them beyond anything they had faced. Some wondered if the refusal had sealed their fate. The days following Churchill's rejection were filled with frantic planning sessions. Reports piled up faster than the staff could sort them. Entire sections of the Eastern Front were buckling under pressure. Fuel reserves dropped to levels that made even routine exercises a luxury. Industrial production charts dipped like falling temperatures in winter. Hitler refused to acknowledge the storm approaching. He insisted that British morale would break, that American aid wouldn't be enough, that Germany had only to endure a little longer. But the generals knew better. Guderian unfolded a new map that outlined the growing enemy supply chains. "This is why Churchill refuses peace," he said. "Their logistics expand daily. Our fuel shrinks. Their aircraft multiply. Ours degrade. They are accelerating. We are maintaining." Keitel's voice was low. "And maintaining is the same as losing." Hitler's eyes flared, but he didn't interrupt. Generals walked through casualty projections, industrial forecasts, and demands from the front that Berlin couldn't meet. Every number screamed the same message. The conflict had turned into a marathon Germany could no longer run. Yet Hitler clung to the belief that one decisive blow could still force the Allies into negotiation. He jabbed a finger at a point on the map. "Here," he said, "a concentrated strike. We break their lines. They come to the table." Guderian shook his head. "We cannot concentrate enough armor anymore. Not without stripping the defenses elsewhere. And even then, fuel, ammunition, replacement parts, too limited." Hitler's voice rose. "Are you saying we do nothing?" The generals exchanged troubled looks. Jodl finally answered. "We are saying Churchill rejected peace because he understands our limits, and because he believes time is on his side." The words stung. Hitler stepped back as if absorbing a physical blow. Brauchitsch softened his tone. "My Führer, the British think we are trying to save ourselves. And they might be right. We offered peace not from advantage, but necessity." The room froze. No one dared breathe. Hitler approached him slowly. "Are you suggesting Germany cannot continue?" Brauchitsch held his ground. "I am suggesting Churchill knows we cannot continue indefinitely." Hitler stared at him, then at the others, then at the map, where red lines advanced in places, blue lines shrank, and markers representing German units grew thinner by the week. For a brief second, the mask slipped. His shoulders sank. His eyes looked older, heavier. Then, with a visible act of will, he straightened, stiffened his chin, and forced his voice steady. "Then we will show him otherwise." But the generals heard only defiance, not strategy. Outside, the distant rumble of bombers vibrated through the bunker walls. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. No one commented on it. They were too accustomed to the tremors. Inside, the High Command quietly continued their calculations. Secret assessments, whispered predictions, guarded remarks that hinted at a truth none dared say aloud. Churchill had refused peace because he believed Germany's defeat was inevitable. And the more the generals studied their situation, the more they suspected he was right. The final meeting came on a cold night, colder than Berlin should have felt that time of year. Power flickered inside the bunker. The air smelled of dust, ink, and the faint residue of explosives from the last distant air raid. Hitler summoned the High Command once again, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The men entered slowly, their boots dragging, faces hollow from endless nights of planning strategies that never materialized. The envelope containing Churchill's rejection still lay on the table. No one moved it. Hitler stood at the end of the table, hands gripping the edge so tightly his knuckles whitened. "We continue," he said. "We fight. We endure. The British will break." No one spoke. It was no longer a strategic debate. It was denial. Keitel finally stepped forward. "My Führer, the British rejected peace because they believe we cannot win. And everything we see suggests they are correct." Hitler's face twisted, but Keitel continued before he could interrupt. "They expect our industry to crumble. They expect our fronts to collapse. They expect our resources to run out. And, my Führer, they expect you to refuse reality until it is too late." Each sentence struck the room like a hammer blow. Guderian added, "If we cannot change their expectations, we must accept that the offer has failed. They believe we reached out because we are weakening." Hitler glared at him. "Weakening? Germany will never weaken." The bunker trembled at that moment, A low groaning rumble from an impact somewhere in the city. Dust drifted again from the ceiling. Jodl spoke softly. They hear the same tremors in London, my Führer. They know our cities cannot sustain this. They know our army cannot resupply indefinitely. And they know you will not withdraw or negotiate. Hitler exhaled sharply, like a man refusing to hear a diagnosis. Brauchitsch took a deep breath. Churchill refused peace because he believes victory demands nothing less. And because he believes Germany will not voluntarily stop. The implication hung in the air. If Germany would not stop itself, someone else would stop it. Silence engulfed the room. No one looked at Hitler now. They stared at the table, the maps, the documents. Symbols of a war spiraling beyond command. After a long moment, Hitler spoke quietly, almost whispering. Then we will show them one last time what Germany is capable of. But the generals no longer believed it. They saw what Churchill saw. A collapsing machine held together by fear and willpower. They did not argue. They did not protest. They simply nodded because they understood the truth. Churchill hadn't refused peace out of arrogance. He refused because he believed Germany had already lost, and only time would make it official. The meeting ended without ceremony. One by one, the generals left the bunker, each carrying the same sinking realization. The final opportunity to change the course of the conflict had slipped away, and history would not give them another.